Harav YCD, welcome back to Yerushalmi Shekalim. Now I'm going to go back a few lines, excuse me, to the middle of Lamed Amud Aleph. Now we spoke about the Torah, which was made in a chulin keli, so it's not a klisharis keli. So Matav Hanina. So we'll go from there. So we're bringing the argument of Yeshua if Ketores needs to be prepared in a klisharis or not. So Matav Hanina, why is his opinion that it's possible? Because he holds with Ketores, he says Kodesh he should be Yasa Kodesh. It should be holy in a klisharis from the beginning of its preparation. Matav Levi, he holds Kodesh he should it has to come from the communal funds, but it doesn't need to be prepared in a holy vessel. Asya, the view of Rabbi Hanina is like Shmuel, and Rabbi Levi is like Rabbi Yochanan, as we shall see now. The Tanina, we've learnt in the following Mishnah. This is the Mishnah, the next Mishnah coming up. So a person makes things holy and doesn't say why he's making them holy. Is it Mizbeach? Is it treasury fund? And the din is that you leave it for the treasury fund. But there are animals included here. Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yochanan said it could be you'll find ketores, which is a private person's ketores, and that would be fitting for communal offerings. So you see, Rabbi Yochanan is of the view that ketores not done in a klisharis is still kosher to use. Now Rabbi Yochanan explained Magdish Nechasav is, why does he say ketores? Why does he refer to that? Because you can't learn and talk about other things, and we'll see, because and he can't be talking about other things, as we'll see later on. And it must be that it doesn't need to be prepared in a holy vessel. And that goes against Rabbi Hanina, who holds that, no, ketores must be done in a holy vessel. So let's see. You could explain the Mishnah differently. So Harav YCD Tifta, you could explain the Mishnah talking about an Uman, Mishal Beis Abtinas, the people who were the craftsmen who made the ketores, and they used holy vessels. They would take ketores as part of their wage. That was a way of paying them back. As we've learned, the Mishnah brings all that. And the ketores, therefore, was made holy in their domain. And it could be that the ketores was actually made in a holy vessel and then ended up with an individual and is treated as chulin because it was part of his wage. You don't have to say that there's a proof from here that if ketores was made in a non-holy vessel, it is kosher. Because it could be it was made in a holy vessel and got back to them as part of a wage. Now, where do we find that Rabbi Hanina is the one who holds like Shmuel, that you do need a holy vessel to make ketores? So Rabbi Hanina, to Shmuel, to Am Ravona B'Shem Shmuel, Machtashes, that the grinder where they make the ketores also has the klisharis the kaddish. They treated it like a klisharis to make the ketores holy. Amara Rav Chuna Kum Rabbi Yossi. He said this idea of Shmuel in front of Rabbi Yossi, and he said Davar Shekadish B'Kli Shares Nifter. Now, something which is made holy in a holy vessel, you shouldn't be able to redeem it. And yet the Mishnah says they would use leftover ketores and it would become chulin, and it was used as part of a way of paying a wage. So obviously they never made it a klisharis, not like Shmuel. So Rabbi Yossi answered back, Shmuel, isn't this Shmuel? Now he holds that the klish machtashes, the grinder, was a klisharis to make everything holy. So Shmuel Amar, Kalhu B'Maisa, Shmuel held there's a leniency when you have holy things of communal offerings that were left over, you can redeem them. Even if they have intrinsic holiness, you can still redeem it. This Palgun, we have Machlokes Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan. Hasiru Tamimim. Look, at the end of the year, you end up with sheep that have not been used for korbanos. No blemishes. What do you do with them? Right? You don't need them for the time. The year's finished. What are you going to do now? You can't bring them for the new year because they were bought from the shkalim of the previous year. Shmuel Amar Niftin Ketmimim. He said, yes, we can redeem them. And the money will come back and we'll use the money to buy new sheep with the new money of the new year. Usually animals can't be redeemed unless they're possible for offering up. But he allowed a special leniency with leftovers that you can redeem it. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Niftin Kivtzida Hamukdashin. He said, no, you got to treat it like an animal that was possible. And after they're possible for offering, now you wait till they get a blemish, and then you can start redeeming it. Shmuel holds, therefore, that if something was holy for korban tzibur and it was left over, you can redeem it, even though it was proper holiness. So here is what leftover ketores, although the ketores was made kedushas haguf, it was made in a holy vessel, nevertheless you can redeem it. Now we brought the machlokes Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan about the sheep. What about these Amoraim? What about other animals that were left? Let's see. Asir Seirim. At the end of the year, you've got chatas goats. They're not being used. Now, you can't. What are we going to do with them? Adati de Shmuel, according to Shmuel, they can be redeemed, and you'll start buying them money for the new year. If an oila offering, the lenient, you can redeem it. Like Hoshke chatas, definitely a chatas offering. But how much more so we can redeem a chatas offering? An oila, you're going to wait till it gets a blemish. In the end, you use the money, whatever it is. But chatas, definitely you'll be able to do it. Chatas. Adati Rabbi Yochanan, then, okay, an oila can. What are we going to do with the chatas? Arav Zeira Yiru. He said, wait till you get a blemish, and then you buy the money. You use the money for other oil offerings. But Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak, he said, no, you can actually offer it up as an oila on the mizbeach. You don't need to redeem it. But kashya. Now the question is, yesh chatas shekreva oila. How can a chatas offering, which is a female, be brought as an oila offering? How can it be? Rav Yosa Shanihi. This chatas is different. Why? The chatas we're talking about is carbon tzibur. Ein carbon tzibur nikboin ala b'shchita. He says the carbon tzibur is based on shchita. That's when it's fixed as to what sort of carbon it is when it's slaughtered. But if it's not yet been slaughtered, you can change it for some other type. He says these goats, actually it's a male goat, that were made holy for a chatas tzibur, and they were left behind, they can be brought as an oila offering. Okay, Amrav Chananya, tonight based in Harav YCD Cohen. He said the Beis Din made a condition, you have Korban Sibur, if there's anything left behind, you can bring it as a Korban oila offering. Right? Like Beis Din make a condition, as it were. If we don't need it, we can use it for other things at the end of the year. Yeah? And they Beis Din Masner. They argue about how far this condition goes. Okay? Okay. Let's go to Halacha Daled. Animals fit for offering up, where a person just said, I'm making it holy, without saying for what. And Magdish Nechasav, he gives his whole estate to the Beis Hamikdash and treasury fund. And there were things like Keteres, things which are fitting for Korbanos, and things over there. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to redeem it maybe, bring it to offering it up. So what we will do is, we will give it to the treasurer workers, as it were, the builders, bischaran, as their wage. And it will get profaned onto the work that they're achieving, and they will end up with chulin. You got that? Yeah, it will get redeemed onto the work that they are doing. And then, Hekdesh will buy it back with money from the new year. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. That's the view of Rabbi Akiva. Amalei ben Azar Einay Amida. He says, you want to say that, this Keteres is given for the treasury fund. He says it's not the same to the din that leftover Keteres, you can offer it up. There, we're not actually giving it to the workers as Kedusha, as a Keteres. Basically, we're not putting Kedusha on the work of the craftsman, because you can't bring something else to Hekdesh for something which is losing its Hekdesh. Ella, he says, what you should do, the Keteres that was given for the Bedek HaBayis, treat it like the Moisar Keteres, as we'll see. Shemafrishin Mehen, we will separate from the Keteres. The Keteres is given to Bedek HaBayis. We will separate Schar HaUmnin, their worker wages, the building worker wages. Machalelin Oisan, and then we redeem the Keteres on Mo'os HaUmnin, on the money which is used to pay the builders. You hear that? So we're not just giving the Keteres to the builders, but we're giving them wages, and then we're putting the Keteres holiness onto that wage. That way, we're adding in an extra stage, as it were. The Keteres is going to go on that money that they receive. That way, the Keteres loses its holiness and becomes chulin. And now they don't get their wage; they get the Keteres. But Noisnin, we give them the Keteres, which is now chulin, le'omnin, to the workers of the building, bischaran, as their wage. And then we use new money to buy it back again. And that way the Keteres is fitting for Korban Tzibur. So we don't want to just give the Keteres to the workers. We don't want to do that. So we'll put it onto the money we were going to give the workers.
They can't do anything with it.
No. So then we give them the money we're going to give the workers with the Keteres on that. then we can give the keteros to them, and then we can use any money of the new year to buy it back off them. Now, when you make something holy without saying whatever it's for, usually it goes to a treasury fund. Now, what about animals now? If you give everything to the treasury fund, there was an animal fitting to be on the Mizbeach, male and female. Rabbi Lezer, he said the males, they can be Oila offerings. But the kavos, the females, can't be an Oila, they can go be a Shlamim offering. Okay? Now, Utzmeyan, and the money that you receive for them, will go with any of the rest of the estate, to the treasury fund. Rabbi Yerushalmi says, well, if there's a male animal, let that itself be an Oila. If there's nothing wrong with it, let that be an Oila. And a kavos and a female, you let that be sold, yimachru, for in order for a shlamim offering to be brought with the money. Yavi b'demeyan. And when you, so basically, what is he saying? You sell it to people who need an animal for a shlamim, and you use that money, yavi b'demeyan, and with that money you bring an Oila offering. Okay? And that way there's Kedushas Oila. So in the end you end up bringing an Oila offering. Although they can't be offered themselves, but they'll be sold and the money will go to an Oila offering. Shana Chasim, everything else, Yiplu Lebedeka Bais, goes to the treasury fund. Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva says, Rabbi Lezer, I think Rabbi Lezer is more correct. So Rabbi Lezer was the one who said, Rabbi Lezer, mine ourselves. So he was the first opinion. Rabbi Lezer was the one. Zacharim, the males, sell them for Oila. Nekeva, sell them for Shlamim. That's what Rabbi Lezer said. Right? Rabbi Yeshua said the males, let them be Oila offerings themselves. So Rabbi Kiva comes along and says, I think Rabbi Lezer is more correct than Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Lezer, Hishras Midosa. He always said the same thing. He said everything you want to give treasury fund. And now you think it's an animal fitting from his back. Okay, so you sell it, use the money for a korban. Rabbi Yeshua made a distinction. Right? Which is better kabayis and which is not. Amra papayis, papayis shamatis divishnen. I've heard, sometimes the din's like Rabbi Lezer, sometimes Rabbi Yeshua. And Magdish befeirush, if you clearly said about the animals, you said my animals and my estate for hektish, then Kedir Rabbi Lezer. That's Rabbi Lezer. The animals also go to treasury fund like everything else. Right? So therefore you said it on that phrase, goes on everything. You didn't say too much, it goes on everything. So we have to sell things to get an animal out of it. But Magdish Stam, but if you didn't mention clearly the animals, you just said my estate to hektish, then Div Rabbi Yeshua. Then it should be like Rabbi Yeshua, the animals can be in a korban themselves, and the rest goes to Bedek HaBayis. Okay, now we're talking about other dinim which are fitting for the Mizbeach. Let's see. Hamagdish Nechasav, you give everything to the base of Mikdash. You didn't say what for. Things fitting to go on the Mizbeach, like yenos, shmonim, wine, oil, things like that. Va'ofas and birds. Sell them, for whatever that people need. You sell them in order to bring them for what they are fitting. Okay? And use the money to bring Oila offerings. Everything else goes, you put a Bedek HaBayis. His usual hekdesh is Bedek HaBayis. Treasury fund. This we quoted before. Someone makes everything hekdesh and the things that are fitting for Kabbalah Sibur. What are they? Rabbi Yechonama Keteres. He says, we're not talking about animals here, we're talking about Keteres. Because everything else fitting for Kabbalah Sibur, like animals, we've already mentioned before in the Mishnah. Now, this is based on the understanding that Keteres can be chulin, made in a person's individual house, and you can make it holy. And we wanted to bring a proof from here before, like the opinion who says it doesn't have to be made in holy kalim, right? This Keteres could be made by an individual. But then we said not necessarily. Maybe it was made by Beis Haftina, so it was given to them as their wage. They would receive Keteres as part of their wage. And since the Keteres therefore was in their rishus. Now, Akiva learns in our Mishnah that you give workers with their wage, you give them the Keteres, and that way it becomes chulin. Ben Azai held, don't give them the Keteres like that. You first put it on something of chulin, and then you give it to them as their wage. Ma'atava de Ben Azai. So Ben Azai threw in an extra stage in the transfer process. So what's his reasoning? You can't put hekdesh stuff on the building work they've done. You have to put it on money, right? It's got to be on money, not on something which is not tangible, like the work they've done. Now, Tamantanina, we've learnt in tomorrow, yesh, bekadre bedek habayis, there are chumras with treasury fund things, which you don't find in the Mizbeach. Shestam hekdesh, as most things you make hekdesh is bedek habayis. Hekdesh balabayis, chalal hakol. Applies to everything, wood, stones, blemished animals, Mizbeach things, it's got to be fitting for the Mizbeach. A mylin, begidulem. Now, if you get benefit from hekdesh bedek habayis, something that's come away from that, like an egg of a chicken, a treasury fund chicken, and you took an egg, yeah, you're chayav meila. If you get benefit from an egg from kodshe mizbeach, you are not chayav. Ve'ein behen hanaya lekonim. There's no issur kodshe bedek habayis hanaya lekonim as opposed to kodshe mizbeach. Some of them, their flesh is eaten by the kohanim. Some of them, the skins go to the kohanim. So what do we see here? So we said normal hekdesh goes to bedek habayis, and could be other things or animals. Rav Hanania said, so even animals might be hekdesh bedek habayis. This is the view of Rebbe Lezer. Tanina, we've learned in our Mishnah, you make everything holy. There was an animal there. Zacharim nekevos. Rebbe Lezer, remember we quoted him before. Zacharim, let the males go and be sold. The tzricha for people who need an oil offering and offer it up. And the keva sell it for anyone who needs a shlamim, and then the money will go to the bedek habayis fund. So according to Belezer, when you make something hekdesh, even a fitting animal, yeah, and you give it to bedek habayis, he says the money of the sale goes to bedek habayis. Rabbi Shua held hekdesh stam. No, the animals go straight to the mizbeach. So the Mishnah in Tzmura is like the view of Rebbe Lezer, it's not like the view of Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yochanan, Talmud Rebbe Lezer. What's Rebbe Lezer? Where does he get it from? From this drasha. The person who makes his house holy. What are we talking about here? What was he thinking about? His house. In base dira, talking about place of living. For Aksiv, it says a person redeems his house. So it can't be talking about a house. And what are we talking about? But Magdish Nechasav, his estate. Yeah, his possessions. And it says Kodesh Lashem. It's like got Kedushas Bedek Habayis, which is the hekdesh totally to Hashem. The Kohanim have no part of it. Mikan, from here we learn, Shestam Hekdesh, the usual things when you make a hekdesh goes to the Bedek Habayis. That's where it goes to the treasury fund. Now we're going to bring various opinions about the case where Rebbe Lezer and Rishon argue in our Mishnah. When do we say Rebbe Lezer that you want to be makdish the animals for Bedek Habayis? And could we be sure we say no, you want them to be on the Mizbeach. Rav Zira Rav Chana B'Shem Rav. Ma Plegin, so where are they arguing? Or Rav B'Shua? He says, look, B'Magdish Nechasav. You said one phrase. Everything should be holy. Yeah? Including your animals, including everything. You just said everything should be holy. So Rav Lezer holds, you wanted to give everything for Bedek Habayis. You said one phrase. Everything goes to Bedek Habayis. We don't start taking the animals and taking them a different route. You didn't want to distinguish between the two. You just want everything to go to the same place. Avo b'magdish edroi. Now, if you make with your normal hekdesh also animals, and you're not including things which are not fitting, if you're only making, say, a flock of sheep holy, just that, then Kol Haloshon, well, everyone agrees, Shulam Mizbeach goes to the Mizbeach. You didn't have to say anything. It was only animals. Of course, it was going to go straight to the Mizbeach. Rabbi Baruch Chana B'Shem Rav, he says, Ma Peligin, he says, no. They're arguing the rest of Yeshua about Magdish Edra. It's precisely in the case where all you had to make holy was your flock. That's all you had. You weren't including anything else. And here, Rabbi Yeshua holds, yeah, you want the animals to go on the Mizbeach. You didn't clearly say it, but look, that's all you have here. But Magdish Nechasav, when you're including other things with the animals, Kol Amma Moedai, then everyone agrees, Shuhula Bedek Habayis, that it goes to the Bedek Habayis. Right? What's this? When everyone agrees, it will go. Avo b'magdish nechasav, when you're actually including various things with it, then everyone agrees shehu leberek habayis, because since you've included the animals with things which are not fitting for the mizbeach, right, and then the hekdesh, you're definitely giving everything to the berek habayis. You're not going to start making a difference in what you have, animals here, animals there. Basically, you want everything to go to the berek habayis. Okay. Adati Reb Zira, according to Reb Zira in Rav, that they argue in a case where you've got the animals together with other things, but not animals on their own. Nicha. I understand, we can understand their opinions. But Kashi Ad Rabbi Ba, it's a question of Rabbi Ba b'Shem Rav. He has Rebbe argue where you've just got animals. Because Behema Lelam is Be'achi. If you only got animals, you think there's an argument there? I mean, what else is it for? Surely it belongs to the Mizbeach. The animal is fitting for the Mizbeach. If you're making it for the Mizbeach, probably that's what your intention was. Why should Rebbe Lezer hold that you want it stam, it should go to Berek Habayis? Why should Rebbe Lezer hold that? So the answer is, Hamagdish Behema Mizbeach. Look, you know something. When you want it to go on the Mizbeach, you will say so. Omer le Mizbeach. You will say it should go to the Mizbeach. But why this person didn't say that? But Lama Sasomesha he didn't say it. Shu Omer is like he's saying, Lo yu ele Berek Habayis. All it should be is treasury fund. Normally, if you're giving animals from Mizbeach, you would mention it. Someone is giving for Berek Habayis, you'll just say stam, make it hegdish. You've got here an animal, you must be Berek Habayis, otherwise you would have said so. Rabbi Yochanan said, Lo shani, there's no difference between whether it's everything in your state, or it's your flock, here the same argument. Right? You're including animals with other things, or you're not. In the cases, there's machlekes Reb Lezer Yeshua as to what you do. Now, behema tamima, which is fitting for the mizbeach. Rav Chuna b'shem Rav, Rav b'shem Rav Yochanan. Kadshe berek habayis shepoidim, you can redeem them tamimin when they are unblemished, yatzel chulin, and they become chulin. Right, so it's berek habayis treasury fund. You redeem the animal, it becomes chulin. Masnisa amrakei. We got a mission which says this. We got animals. We got grushas tamim from the mizbeach. V'ladan v'chalavan, the children, the milk. Muter la'acha pidyan, and it's permitted after you've redeemed them. So this animal's got grushas tamim. It goes to chulin through redemption. So we learn from here that animals that are tamim, once they're made holy for the berek habayis, right? There's only a monetary value. You redeem it, it becomes chulin. Rav Chizkiv Shem Rav Chizda, he said this din of kodshei berek habayis going to chulin. You want to learn from our Mishnah Tifta, it could be Shepazot Tmimin Behubamu. It could be where there was a blemish there. Not where you redeemed it when it was perfect. Maybe the Mishnah allows it, you want to learn from there for Kadshe Berek Habayis, maybe they were, basically the way you understand this is there was a blemish and then you redeemed it. Yeah, not that it was blemished and then it got, not that you redeemed it then it got blemished. No, it was a blemish and then you redeemed it. And maybe the heter for Kadshe Berek Habayis, which was blemished, maybe only if it's redeemed when it's got a blemish already. You haven't got a raya where you redeem it where there's nothing wrong with it. Rabbi Yosef Shem Chista, he said Masnisa Amrakein. And Mishnah actually says this as well. It goes to Chulin only where there's a blemish already. Because we learned in the Mishnah differences between Kadshe Mizbeach and Kadshe Berek Habayis. Vlodan, V'chalavan, the children and the milk is forbidden also la'acha pidyanon, after redemption, as opposed to Kadshe Berek Habayis. So the Mizbeach, Kadshe Mizbeach, these are animals that have got a blemish. Because animals which are holy for the Mizbeach, they're tamim, you can't redeem it. So this Kadshe Berek Habayis must be talking about the same Mishnah. There's no issa with the children or the milk after you redeem it. It must be, yes, it was holy, it was perfect, then it got a blemish, and you redeemed it. Yeah, you redeemed it after the blemish. That's what he's saying. That's the difference between Kadshe Mizbeach and Kadshe Berek Habayis. Both, they have to be similar cases. Whereas Kadshe Berek Habayis, which was redeemed without a blemish, there's no raya for that case. Now the Gemara brings the proof that an animal Berek Habayis that was redeemed goes completely to Cholin, even if there was no blemish. Rav Chizkiv Shem Rav Yosa, he said, Kadshe Berek Habayis Sheb'dayin Tamimin, no blemish, you redeem it, Yatzil Cholin, goes to Cholin. In Tema Aloya to the Chulin, maybe you're going to tell me where it doesn't go completely to Chulin. Maybe there's still a bit of holiness there. Then Hech Kadshe Mizbeach, Cholin on Kadshe Berek Habayis. How can Kadshe Mizbeach come on an animal that was redeemed from Berek Habayis? It says the Behema Tamima, that's holy for Bedek Habayis, you can sell it for someone who needs it for a carbon, right? Now the din is, you can't change an animal from Bedek Habayis holiness to Kedushas Mizbeach. It must be from our Mishnah that Kodshe Bedek Habayis is sold, and in any other case of redemption, it goes completely to Chulin, and that's why you can start using it as a carbon. Then the Gemara says, Ba'alei Mumin, an animal with a blemish, which you made it holy for a carbon, Kedushas Mizbeach Halal, it does have holiness in the Mizbeach, although it's got a blemish. Laida, for what purpose? Legizo Lavadi, you're not allowed to share it, you can't make it work. You can't bring it as a carbon, it's got a blemish, but you can't share it and you can't make it work. If you separated a female for an Oila, or your Korban Pesach, or for your Asham, now these are Korbanos that don't have a female animal. Oisa Tzemura. Now, it does have Kedushas Haguf. Now remember, you're not allowed to transfer holiness from one animal to another, Tzemura. Sure. But if you did, that animal becomes a Tzemura. So this is holy enough. You've separated an Akeva for an Oila, right? Now you can't have these things, but it's holy enough to create a Tzemura onto another animal. Rav Shimon said, a female for an Oila, that is a Tzemura, that creates a Tzemura. Whereas Lepischa v'Lashamai, Pesach and Asham, ain't a Tzemura. It doesn't do a Tzemura. Rav Shimon ben Yehuda, I remember Rav Shimon, he said, all three, no Tzemura at all. Ain't a Tzemura. So what have we got? We've got three opinions. The first one said, Oila, female, creates a Tzemura. Then you had Rav Shimon ben Yehuda said, one second. The first opinion said, Nekeva, all three, creates Tzemura. Rav Shimon said, Nekeva for Oila creates Tzemura. And Rav Shimon ben Yehuda says, all three doesn't create Tzemura. Now, what are they arguing about? Talmud of Shimon. The reason of Rav Shimon that Nekeva for an Oila makes a Tzemura. She came outside of Nekevas ba'oif keshera lava Oila. The type of Nekeva with a bird can be an Oila offering. There's no difference between males and females when it comes to Oila birds. That's why it could create an Oila status. You hear that? You made a female animal Oila. Well, with a bird, a female is not a problem. That's why it can create a Tzemura. But Amar Yochanan, Talmud of Shimon ben Yehuda. The reason of Shimon ben Yehuda, who says Oila doesn't create a Tzemura, he says, although, yes, with a bird, a female's kosher, but even with an animal, which is the same type, kosher, but it's missing something, the din is different. And there's no Kedushas Haguf. Like Koshken Min B'Sheina Mina, how much more so when the animal is not the same min at all? Behem and Akeva for a carbon where only males are okay will be, different from an animal which is kosher for a carbon and won't have Kedushas Haguf if you're making it Hagdash. So he says, Eza min b'mina shu cholok alav. So what situation is he saying that even min which is the same type, but it's got missing something, it's got a different din. And there's no Kedushas Haguf on it. No Kedushas Haguf on it. Tani, right, we've learned. Let's say you have to bring Asham ben Shana. You've got to bring an Asham in its first year. And what did you do? Behavi ben Shtaim. You brought in his second year. Or ben Shtaim, you're meant to bring in the second year. Behavi ben Shana, you brought in his first year. Kosher. Yes, you can sprinkle the blood. You can offer the Iburim. You can eat the flesh. And you're not fulfilled your duty. Yeah? Rav Shimon said, Kol Atzman, look at this. These animals, Einam Kedoshim. They have no Kedushas Haguf. Because it's a few days old, they have no Kedushas Haguf at all. So the view of Rav Shimon is, even an animal which is the right species, if it's not the right age, it can't have Kedushas Haguf. So Kolshin, how much more so? If you want to give an animal to be a carbon which its species can't be, like a female for a carbon which needs a male, definitely the din according to Shimon is not going to have Kedushas Haguf, and therefore it can't create the transfer to Tzemura status. Rabbi Yochanan said, Rav Shimon, Rabbi Yeshua, Shnei Namru Davar Echad. The way Rav Shimon said it, and Rav Shimon Yeshua said it, you give an Akeva for an Oila, no Kedushas Haguf. They both say the same thing. Kemad Rav Shua Amar, just like Rabbi Shua said, Nekeva la'ola la'kacha, you can't have a female for an oila. Ela hektish shlamim, only a monetary value. Ken Rav Shimon, so Rav Shimon ben Yehuda also. I'm an akeva la'ola la'kacha ela hektish shlamim. He can only have a grusha, monetary holiness. It can't create a tzmara. Yeah, so an akeva you give for an oila, it's only monetary holiness. The animals, Tamima Stam, they've got Grishas Oila, males, maybe. Nekeva, you'll sell it, you'll bring an Oila. So Nekeva is sold maybe for a Shlamim, it's redeemed to bring a Shlamim. In Tema, you're going to tell me Nekeva is holy for an Oila, Kacha Kedusha Zaguf. If it was a din of proper Kedusha, then Nekeva, you'd have to wait till it gets a blemish, Yiru, and then you'll redeem it. You can't redeem an animal who's got Kedusha Zaguf without blemish. And then it won't even be fitting to be a shlamim. So basically, it can't be even a shlamim. You have to sell it and get the money and then use it for shlamim. Now we said if you make a nekeva for an oila or pesach or asham, Rebbe, this should be ani rise to Rav Shimon, but pesach. I don't agree with Rav Shimon about nekeva for pesach. Now, Rav Shimon said you give a nekeva for your oila, creates a tomorrow. Nekeva for pesach and asham doesn't create tomorrow. He says, I don't agree about nekeva for Pesach. I think if you separate nekeva for Kom Pesach, it creates a tzmura. There is Kedushas Haguf here, and you can't redeem it without blemish. Why is there Kedushas Haguf? Well, look, Kom Pesach, you're right, it's a male animal. But we have a din. Hamoisa Pesach bar shlamim. If you have a leftover Kom Pesach after its time, it can be brought as a shlamim offering. A shlamim offering is a female. Since there is a kedushas shlamim in this animal that was originally designated for Pesach, and a female is kosher for shlamim, therefore when you're magdish and a keva for Pesach, it's going to have kedushas aguf of shlamim. V'leima, now Rebbe could also say, Ein ani ra divrei Rav Shimon, but asham. He could have said, I don't agree with his din on asham as well. That one who makes an akeva for an asham, it creates a tzmura. I think it does create a tzmura. It's got kedushas aguf. Why is that? Shamoisa asham ba'oila. A sheep that's made as an asham, and in the end it wasn't needed. The din is you can bring it as an oila. You take it to get a blemish, and then you redeem it, and the money goes to oila. So there is a kedushas oila somewhere along the line with any animal that started out as an asham. So if you set aside an akeva for an asham, it should have kedushas haguf for an oila because the money can eventually become an oila. Just like got kedushas haguf if you're magdish an akeva for an oila. So why doesn't Rebbe say this? He only said I argue on Pesach. He didn't say I argue on asham. Why does he make a distinction? He only argues with magdish an akeva for Pesach, but not asham. Rav Avin, he said in Higdish Pesach, when you bring a Pesach and you don't offer it, and now bar shlamim, now it's left over, it's got a din shlamim. Gufa kar shlamim, it itself can be brought as a shlamim. However, in Higdish asham, if you make an asham holy, you don't offer it up. Now bar oila, now you're saying, it's got a din, it can be brought as an oila. Well, not it. It is not brought as an oila. Ein gufa kar oila. It itself is not an oila. The money you get for it goes to bring an oila. So the kedusha shlamim, which you have in Pesach, is proper kedusha. The kedusha's oila, which you have through an asham, is only a monetary kedusha. So in a keva for Pesach, Rebbe holds it's got kedusha's aguf because you can end up being a shlamim itself. Whereas the keva for asham, he doesn't hold. It has kedusha's aguf because eventually an oila can come about. Okay. Just 1 second. My kedun, or my pligi. So we got machlekes Rabbi and Shimon, and it's only about nekeva for Pesach, but not nekeva for asham. So what's the idea of the argument? My pligi, what are they arguing about? Ahena, Mr. Rav Shimon holds. Hegdesh damim kadosh. When you make a nekeva holy for a Pesach, it's only got monetary kedusha for shlamim, not kedusha zakuf. It's not kosher to be brought as a shlamim with this. Since basically it holds this animal's only kedusha stamim, a monetary kedusha, so therefore it can't make it tzmura. But Rebbe holds hegdesh guf Kadosh. It's proper holiness, yeah? Proper Kedushas Haguf for Shlomim. Even though this animal itself is not kosher to be brought as a Shlomim with this Kedusha, but it's got Kedushas Shlomim. Shlomim is shaykh with an akeva. Therefore it gets Kedushas Haguf. And therefore, since it has Kedushas Haguf, it's got a kach to create a Tmura as well. Okay. I'm carrying on a few more lines. Rabbi Yeshua said, the males can be, let's say you make everything holy, and you had a mixture, animals, non-animals. Rabbi Yeshua said, the males can be oil offerings. The females, you sell them for shlamim, and you use the money for oila. And Stam Hegdash is fitting in Mizbeach, has got Kedushas Oila. Reb Zaira Shem Lakish, where do you know that Stam Hegdash goes to Kedushas Oila? Tamdi Bishra, Daber Aaron, speak to Aaron, every person, Shiakrim, for all their vows that they will bring Lashem La'oila. The Pasuk Lachon Nidreim, Lachon Nidvaisam, Lashem La'oila. Hakol Kav La'oila, all Hegdash Stam can end up as an Oila offering. Li'tzainchem Tamim Zacha. And this din is at least with the males, which are kosher to be brought as oil offerings. Menayin afilu nekevas. How do you know even nekevas as well? Talmud loyma babaka. Babaka, the rabbis and nekevas, the females as well. So according to Rish Lakish, Rav Shua learns this drasha, hegdash stam of animals, male, female, kedusha saida. But it's only with a perfect animal. An animal with a blemish is not included. There is like the rest of the estate goes to the treasury fund. Better kabais. Rabbi Yitzchak Belazar Shah, because if it says zacha, it says male. Ma'atamat, and you said babaka rabbis and akevas to include the females. The hegdash stam can be an oila. Similarly, on the other hand, it says tamim, and there you say ma'atamat that the word babaka the rabbis balimumin. There you want to say includes blemished ones as well. Just like baka means male and female, and therefore we need to use it from zacha, we need to exclude it from zacha, so it can be blemished and non-blemished as well. We should darshan to exclude from tamim, we should exclude the balei mumin as well. And yet we show paskins, an animal with a blemish is like other nechasim. He doesn't say hegdash stam has got kedusha saila. Ma benen. So what difference is there between a female and a blemished animal with the drasha that he wants to include one and exclude the other? One he includes for oil offerings and one he doesn't include for oil offerings. So Rav says, Shifta de Kalkada B'nein. You know, there's a big weaving stick in between. There's a massive difference between them. What do I mean? The word babaka, with the Pasha of Karbonos, means animals fitting for the Mizbeach, which means perfect ones. So it can mean, yes, females as well. Females which are perfect are fitting from the Mizbeach. But it doesn't mean blemished ones because they are not fitting from the Mizbeach at all. Okay. To be continued, Rabbi Say.
Okay.